Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are taking a closer look at the Templar 250. I have made a ton of modifications to this bike since I first got it, so I wanted to go ahead and show you guys everything that I've done to this bike so you guys can kind of follow along with my current setup, because I do take this bike to the track, and if you guys want to do the same thing, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a template of just kind of what I done to my bike. That's pretty much what we're going to do today. We're going to walk through every single modification that I've done, big, small, doesn't matter, because there's a lot of little things that I've done on this bike. I talked about it in the last video. There's a lot of little things that I've done to this bike that I just didn't show, so we're going to go ahead and walk through everything today. Alright guys, let's get started. So starting at the front of the bike here, first thing that we did when we got this bike is we went through the front forks. We dumped out the old fluid. We went with Mold Tool 15 weight fork oil, as well as one shim or one spacer for the preload. That was our very first thing. This is essential if you're going to do any big trail riding or big jumping, because these forks on all the China bikes come super soft. So when you swap out the oil and you put a spacer in here, really stiffens it up a bunch. So that is a must do. I would say even if you're going to just trot around on this bike and you're in the 200-pound range, I would do that automatically. Maybe even go to the 10 weight oil and do the spacer, just because it's just super soft. When I sit on the bike now, it barely goes down at all. When I first got it, man, it would be like 2 inches down just sitting on the bike, not even moving. So very important that you do that to your bike. Another thing that I did, very small, is I took the speed sensor off. And last but not least, I took off the blinkers for this, because obviously this is a street legal dual sport. So the head blinkers that come out here, I took those off, obviously wires, everything. Again, I'm just strictly using this for the track. I didn't even register it or anything. I still have the MCO, but I didn't register it, so I don't have plans on doing that either. So, and moving slightly back, the only other thing that I did was, this is just a 3D printed plastic skid plate. My brother printed this for me. Again, I'm gonna work on a skid plate where it kind of goes up and underneath the bike. This is just a little prototype that I decided to kind of just try and have fun with. A lot of people said it looks like a little cutting board, so it's kind of funny. I was laughing at those comments, but it works. You know, just helps keep the front of the motor not so dirty, because obviously it's not going to stop a big rock, or, you know, if you jump a rock or something and it smacks that, obviously that's going to crack in 2 seconds. But it's just a little, you know, it just keeps dirt off the engine. So I thought it was something, you know, just a little protection from the dirt. Moving to the left side of the bike now, I first started off with replacing my front tooth with a 12 tooth front sprocket. The first one, the stock, is a 13. When I went to Ultimate a couple videos ago, I just felt like I had it pinned wide open. I just wasn't getting the torque I needed, just wasn't getting the RPMs out of it. So that's why I went to a 12 tooth here, and just riding around at my track at the ranch, my fiance's ranch, I would say it made a pretty dang big difference. So that's why I went with this. So stock gearing is a 13 and stock back is a 47, it looks like. Yeah, so 12:47 is our gear ratio on my bike, at least. There is a sprocket cover here. I always tend to take those off on my motors. It's not going to save your engine case if the chain lets go. And plus, what I noticed is a lot of times there'll be some dirt and debris that just gets caught up in here between the sprocket and the case. So I don't like that. I'd rather have this free flowing out here. And plus, you pretty much have this big, you know, thick frame here to protect you if the sprocket lets go or the chain lets go. The likelihood of it catching your foot is not very high. Plus, if you're wearing riding boots, you have, you know, riding boots for protection. You have this chain, you have the frame right here, so the chain shouldn't come out towards your foot too much if it does let go. But again, that's just my setup. I've been doing this since I've owned China bikes. But that's just a personal thing there. You have to decide if you want that extra protection or if you just want to have it open like me. And one last thing that I disconnected on this side is the kickstand here. The reason why I eliminated this is that I don't know if it's the angle it sits on or the ground that I kicked it out on was just soft. I don't know, but I've dropped this bike 3 times now. On the kickstand, I go walk away for like 2 or 3 minutes. I come back and the bike's on the floor. So I said I decided I'm not even gonna keep risking this anymore. I'm just gonna go ahead and take it off. Alright guys, moving to the back of the bike now. The rear shock is the same, but I do have quite a bit of preload. I would say about 1.5 inches. We're gonna go a lot more because I'm getting tired of this tire smacking the dang fender. Last thing before we go to the other side, if you have the stock Templar or the X, the M, it doesn't matter. You know that it comes with like a little license plate bracket. I eliminated mine altogether, so no blinkers, no brake light. Basically that support bracket is just bolted up in here, and it just like 3 or 4 bolts and the whole thing drops off. Coming to the right side of the bike, I took obviously our Kickstarter off. I took off the brake sensor, I think banjo bolt. On your rear brake, on your stock bike, you'll have like wires that run up out of your thing. That basically triggers your brake light. So I took that off and I just put a regular bolt there. Again, I actually put that on another bike. I actually put that on the Hawk 250, the one that came right here. And last but not least, I did the spring back on this peg here. I tried multiple products on Amazon that have that, you just search up spring, a foot peg spring. I could not figure it out. They have a lot of kits online there where you could buy like the whole thing, or you could buy a whole foot peg, the pin, and the spring. It's all fitted together. So that would be what I would recommend if you decided that you want to do this. I stole this spring off the Apollo. The Apollo spring surprisingly fit, so I stole it off the Apollo and I put the old spring back on there. So that's how I was able to get this spring back. I have modified both my carburetor and exhaust, so we're going to go through the carburetor first. I have stock air filter, but I have oiled it up, just some spray-on oil. I'll have a link in the description to the stuff that I used. I have the stock carburetor on here, but we opened it up and we rejetted it. I am at sea level, so I am running a 42 Pilot and a 130 main. I believe stock is 40, 120, so we definitely upped it up quite a bit on the top end. Now, with the carburetor out of the way, we're going to move on to the exhaust side. The stock exhaust comes with the catalytic converter in here. This is actually a part of my exhaust header from the Hawk 250 DLX bike that I salvaged the forks and stuff off of. And the reason why I use that is because it's stainless steel. So I took this over to my fiance's brother and he welded this up for me. So we got rid of the catalytic converter, and let me tell you, this thing is a lot louder with that cut out. So it just tells you how restrictive that catalytic converter is. All right, now, so coming a little bit farther downstream, I was having issues when the rear tire would fully collapse and hit the rear fender, that it would hit my exhaust muffler here. And over time, one time is okay, but if it sits there and smacks that repeatedly, you might run into some issues. So what I did was, I cut it, tried to bend this little elbow piece here, and I kind of banged on the muffler a little bit. I'll show you guys that here in just a second. But I'm just trying to get this to sit out farther to the right, I'm just trying to avoid the muffler hitting the tire. So this is kind of a view from the back. You have a mounting tab up here, so you can see I was just kind of trying to push the muffler this way. I beat it with a hammer a little bit to try to just even make a little bend in this muffler. And I jumped the bike, and thankfully I think we fixed it. It's no longer touching the muffler, which is really nice. That was my issue. I don't know if all the Templars are having that issue, but I noticed that even in the stock form, mine was making contact. So, all right, guys. So that's my bike. That's everything I can think of that I've done to this bike. Some little things to note in my experience so far. I lost the bolt here in my tank shroud here, tank plastics. I replaced it with another bolt. That's strictly my fault. I didn't have Loctite on any of these bolts. Another thing is one of my headlight straps ripped. So obviously, again, not a big deal. I think it comes with a couple of them, so I went ahead and put a new one on. But that's just something to, again, I'm just trying to be honest with you guys, let you know anything that breaks or that I replace. So I only have two kind of baby issues with this bike. First one is that this rear shock keeps getting bottomed out. I'm gonna crank down on the preload and see if that helps. If that doesn't help, I'm gonna be looking at a rear shock to try to figure out how to get this thing to at least just not bottom out. That's my biggest thing. And secondly is the fork length is kind of weird. On most bikes, it's that 910 millimeters. These ones are 810, which means they are quite a bit shorter. They're probably about 2 or 3 inches shorter. It's just kind of weird why they, why these forks when the X and all those other ones come with the 910, like more traditional. These forks are obviously working just fine. I'm not bottoming them out yet with going through them in the preload and then the oil. But it's just weird because I'll ride a different bike and you just feel like you're sitting up real tall. And on this thing here, I just feel like the bike is so short. The forks are a lot shorter, so you're sitting kind of more forward, which is kind of weird in my opinion. But other than that, everything is good. I love the rims, the wheels, the brakes work good, the carburetor, the exhaust, all this stuff so far is working really good. It hasn't broken down on me yet. Alrighty guys, that's going to conclude today's video. If you like today's video, please consider like, commenting, and subscribing. And obviously, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. I'd be glad to help you out. Have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you.